on the call and you can see my screen. Let me know. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
we can. We can.
All right. So welcome, guys. My name is Frank Joseph. I would have loved to hear you guys introduce yourselves, but that would take so much time. So, but who's excited to be here? Who is excited to be here? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, who's excited to be here? Just unmute your mic and then, who's excited to be here? I want to know. Oh, okay. So today we'll be talking about technical writing. So at any point, if you can hear my voice, just let me know so I can go more audible. But I hope to maintain the tempo. It is better this way, right? Oh, why is nobody responding?
Yes, it is better.
So we can unmute. Sir, you can also check the chat box for comments from us.
Okay. So yeah, I will do that now. So the thing is, I want to. I like it when people respond to my question. It gives me feedback that I'm not talking to myself. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I said before that we'll be talking about technical writing today. But before that, we want to. I'm assuming that most of us on this call we've heard about technical writing, and then maybe some of us we're already technical writers. In our own space, we're already writing technical stuff, and then for some of us too, I believe that we must have made research on technical writing and we know a thing or two about it. This is me assuming, and I believe that my assumption might not be completely wrong. So, but yeah, can anybody tell me anything about technical writing? Anything you know about technical writing? Guys, you can unmute and just go ahead. Let me hear you guys. Blessing, Ade, Oluwatosin. Guys, you can unmute. Ade.
Hello, sir. Please, I would like you to repeat the question again.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that I'm assuming that a lot of us on the call are already aware of what technical writing is all about or what it is in our own way. And that some of us, I believe that we're already doing stuff within that space. But I'm just asking, can you guys tell me what technical writing is? Like what you think technical writing is? I know I'm sharing my screen, you can see my slide, but you can just say stuff outside what you are seeing on the screen.
All right. Okay. So to me, what technical writing is just a particular writing which is meant to be very concise, easy to read, easy to understand, most especially solving a particular problem. More like trying to explain complex technical words to mostly non-technical audience for them to be able to actually get a full grasp or understand what that term is, and again, how to go about using a particular product. Just like where we have manuals and all that. So technical writing is just about writing to explain stuff, to teach, and to guide your audience, targeted audience.
Okay. I think you're correct. You're correct in your own way. Somebody else want to say something other than what I have said so far? Okay. So guys, if you can hear me, please let me know that you can hear me. Somebody else want to say 18 or 2. James Oluwatosin, Mayokun, Blessing, and Ademiso.
I think technical writing aims to bridge the gap between complex technical information and the audience who are
Okay.
non-technical individuals, majorly.
Okay. It's almost the same thing. Not the same thing. So the both of you use the word non-technical audience too. Okay, that's almost the same thing. So I mean, for the sake of time, let's just go ahead. But before I go, I want to say a story. And for the purpose of that story, I want to apologize to those who are not Christian or who are not believers of the gospel of Christ, because I like to give emphasis so that it makes sense to what I'm going to teach now. So for those of you who know about the creation story, how that God created man, and then he breathed his life into man. The man became a living being. So God didn't just stop there after creating man. Again, if you're not a Christian, I'm so sorry I'm saying this. I'm not saying this to trying to convert you. I'm just trying to bring perspective into what we're talking about going forward. So God created man, breathed his life into them. He didn't stop there. So as man grew and all of that, God communed with man, and then God gave man commandment. So first God gave man his life. Then it was God trying to tell man, this life I've given you, this is how you're supposed to live the life. Does that make sense? Hello, guys. Please just, if you can hear me, just respond. I will know that I'm not talking to myself.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Yes, it makes sense.
God created
Yes,
man.
yes.
God created man. He breathed his life into man. And then, so going forward, God was not trying to tell man how to live the life that he gave them. So what God was technically doing, or what God was doing, was God trying to guide man. Because man does not own the life. So he doesn't know how to use the life or how to live the life. So man need something like a manual to live the life. Does that make sense? So that manual is what God was giving to man in form of the commandment, in form of vision and all of those things, that all of those experiences man had with God was what God trying to direct man the way to live life. So that's what technical writers are basically doing too. They are acting like God. Does that make sense in any way?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, it does.
Yes. So technical writers are trying to act like God. So now the thing is, we are not limited to non-technical audience. As technical writers, you're not limited to non-technical audience, like Ade and the other person said. So you write for technical audience and non-technical audience. Now, there's a field of technical writing called API documentation engineering. So what you're doing, you're documenting APIs. In the end, who uses API? The engineers, developers. These are technical people. Am I right? Guys, am I
Yes,
right?
sir, you're right.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So now we know that we can now say that we are not writing only for non-technical audience. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. It does.
It does.
Yes,
Because
sir.
what is technical writing? So technical writing is basically guidance. So you're guiding people on you're trying to make them understand technology, a concept, or a product. And so as a tech writer, you are tasked.
No.
with that.
Don't sit there. Don't sit there.
Oh, who is talking? As a tech writer, you are tasked with that responsibility of helping users, whether they're technical audience or non-technical users, to understand a particular product, a concept, or a technology. That's what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. It makes sense.
So don't forget, I mentioned that you're trying to act like God. So if you're God in that sense, it means that you must understand the product or the technology that you're trying to explain to the other party to understand. So you're God, you understand the product before you can explain to other people. Then what you're doing, you're trying to give them guidance on how to use the product you're trying to talk about, or the technology or the concepts you're trying to explain, whether technical or non-technical audience. Does that make sense in any way? Does that make sense in any way?
Yes,
Hi,
sir, it
guys.
does.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, sir.
So now we can explain what technical writer is, that you're offering or providing guidance to people across divide, whether technical or non-technical audience. So we should not limit technical writers to people who are talking to only technical audience. I mean, to only non-technical audience. We've settled that. So, like going forward, I'm assuming that we can and we have an idea or we know what a technical writer is, so we can explain further. So I mentioned that if you must explain a product to a user, you must understand the product in and out. You must understand the product in and out, because this is the only way you can explain to somebody else. So whether you're working for a SaaS startup, SaaS like software as a service product, you must understand the software they're building. If it's an API-based startup you're working for, you must understand the API your company is offering in and out. So that's the only way you can explain it to people who want to integrate with your APIs. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
that's
know.
what technical writers. So that's what technical writing is about. You're offering guidance. I mean, this is enough. This is enough. And you know that for you to offer guidance, you must know your left from your right. That's enough. So
Okay.
so far so good. Is there anything that you are yet to understand about what I've explained so far? Hello, guys.
We're with you, sir.
Yeah, I'm asking. Is there anything that you don't understand with what I've explained so far?
No.
Okay, so everything is clear. So we now understand what technical is about.
Yeah.
How that they offer guidance. They try to understand the product
I don't
very
think-
well.
I want to buy.
Someone asked me a question.
No, I was in church.
You was in church?
Yes,
I did not see you.
I was at the back.
Mike here.
I want to
Michael.
buy.
Mike here. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to the next slide since everybody's on the same page. So why is technical writing necessary? Why is technical writing necessary? So again, I know you can see my screen. But for those of you who already know what technical is about, why do you think it is necessary? Why is technical writing necessary? Oluwatosin, Isaac James, Mike here, and Mayor.
All right. All right. So, why is technical writing necessary? So, I feel like it's more like why is technical writing important? Like, what's the
Okay.
need for technical writing, right? So, technical writing is actually necessary because it it helps to guide the audience on what to do, guide your targeted audience on what to do concerning a particular product, right?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's just like let's say provide value. Yeah. So
Okay.
your slide actually like is giving us a clue and all that. So I don't want to use us like just go what I because from definition of technical writing for technical
Yes,
writing,
yes.
I just feel like, it it tends to provide guidance and
All right. Thank you. Is that all? I thank you, Oluwatosin. Anybody want to go again? Anybody want to say a thing? Why you think technical writing is necessary? Why is it important?
I think
Anybody?
it is very important when it comes to as user manuals when you buy a product and you
Okay.
don't know how to fix, how to use. Technical
Okay.
writing is necessary.
All right. Thank you, James. So yeah, I've heard from two persons. So I mean, we need to go ahead because of time. So yes. Oh, Damilola, I want to say it in. Damilola. I see that you unmute your mic and then you muted it back. Okay, let me go ahead.
Hi,
So why
I'm
is
sorry
technical...
about that.
Oh, okay. I thought you want to say a thing about what we're talking about.
No.
Okay. So why is it necessary? Like Oluwatosin and James have already mentioned. You know, in the previous slide, I told you guys they offer guidance. So I don't know if there's anybody here on this call who is a developer. So the thing is, when you try to build a product with an API, I know people will try to rugged it. I mean, just do it. And then when you see the error, you try to figure things out on your own. But most time, people would not want to go through that stress. The first thing they want to do, they want to go to the documentation, the API documentation. I mean, the API that they want to use. So, for instance, you want to integrate with Paystack payment system. So, the first thing that you want to do, you want to go and read Paystack documentation. Does that make sense? So, that's the first thing you want to do. You want to go and read Paystack documentation. The people who wrote that documentation, they're most likely technical writers. So now, again, let me clear this thing. Technical writers for different companies, they have different nomenclatures. They can call them tech writers. They can call them API doc engineers and all of that. Like for where I work, our title is API doc engineers, like API documentation engineer, but we do the same thing as technical writers. Do you understand? It's just different nomenclature, different company. So you want to go and read the documentation of the product that you want to use. Like somebody mentioned manual. So let's say documentation too, in this case, is more like a manual. So when you read document, you now know how to use the APIs. You know what the payload will look like. You know what the request body will look like. You know what the response you are expecting and all of that. So that will give you an idea. You know the webhook and all of those things. So that will give you an idea of how to write your code and how to integrate with this API that you want to use. So in essence, technical writers, among other things, I mentioned before, they offer guidance. That's one. They offer guidance. One. Then two, like James mentioned, they write manuals. They create documentations for API. Then the other part that we mostly not pay attention to is the marketing part of things. Technical writers, that are technical marketers. Because what they're doing, imagine that you're working for a company as a technical writer. Your task primarily is to explain your company's products such that it will make sense. Now, product in this sense might be API, might be a SDK or anything. It can be a library, a paid library, that matter. So you're trying to explain your product such that it makes sense to whoever that is going to use it. So it means that you're trying to sell the product to the person. You're not going to sound like a marketer. You're just doing your work, trying to explain the product. As mean that this thing will make sense to the person who is doing it. And then eventually, if the thing makes sense, the person starts using your product. You've added a new user to your company account. So if it is a paid service, the person starts paying on account of reading the doc that you created. So technical writers also than necessary in marketing. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Yes. I just like the feedback, so I'm not talking to myself. So we've mentioned a couple of reasons why technical writing is necessary. We mentioned that one that necessary for marketing purposes. I mean, they're not really marketers, but like what they're doing, they're trying to market the product, because in the end, if I want to use like I mentioned Paystack earlier, if I want to use Paystack API and I'm struggling with understanding Paystack documentation, I want to look for the next available payment system, right? I want to look for the next available payment system and then go to that documentation. If that makes sense, I will stick there and then use that product. Paystack belongs to a user or a potential customer in that sense. So technical writers, they offer marketing efforts, they offer guidance, they have been creating manuals for users. They help people understand your product. This one is very important. Technical writers, you might be building the best of products, but if people don't understand it, nobody will talk about it. If people don't understand your product, nobody will use your product. So you need technical writers to be able to explain your product in the way that people will make sense of it. Now we've mentioned a couple reasons why you need technical writers or why it is necessary. Does anybody have any question or a comment so far? Now I know that you can see my screen. Again, I've been saying this, but not trying to hold knowledge from anybody. I mean, it should be public knowledge that you need to share knowledge. Like, so assuming that you're not seeing my screen, from your understanding of technical writing, what do you think technical writers do?
All right, sir. So,
Oluwatosin, hold on. Oluwatosin,
okay,
hold on.
okay,
James, hold on. Hold on. And Blessing, Mayokun, Michael, Ade, Precious, Damilola. So, guys, I'm waiting for you guys. What do you think technical writers do? I'm waiting for the other guys who have not spoken so far. Precious, Farouk, who is just joined us. Welcome, Farouk. Damilola, Michael, Ade. Waiting for the guys who have not spoken so far before we move to before we explain and then we move to the next slide. What do you think technical writers do? All right, Tosin, you can just say it. Yes, let me listen to you, Tosin. If you can hear me, Tosin.
all right, sir. So first and foremost, technical writer. So it means that he is someone that writes a technical copy to get like try to explain um concept to non-technical and technical audience. So I think first and foremost they write, but they write in a very concerned way to actually bridge the gap and explain things to their audience. Like they they pass information to say they pass tailored information to guide their audience. Yes.
All right, the right information to guide the audience. That's good. Who else want to say? Okay, I'm reading from the chat. Blessing said the guide. Okay. Damilola said the right concise document. Almost the same thing Tosin has said. So yes, technical writers they write basically. I mean, what is technical writing without writing? They write. So they write technical stuff to guide their audience, correct? But beyond that, you guys remember that I mentioned about documentation because we're trying to make it more practical. So these are general knowledge that as a technical writer you need to write. You understand? And you want to write stuff that is clear, accurate, and concise. So we should not debate that. But beyond that, what else do? You create documentation. You create documentation. You could be engineering documentation. It could be API documentation. Like, so I don't know what I asked before where I have the papers on the call. I know some of you have heard of. So somebody is talking. Farouk. Hello, Farouk. Adebayo Farouk. Adeboye Farouk.
Hello.
Are you saying something?
Yeah, I said good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. Okay, all right. Thank you. So, the fact that technical writers write is not something we want to argue about. But now, what exactly do they write? Yeah, what they write have to be concise. It has to be accurate, and it has to make sense. But what kind of stuff do they write? I mentioned that technical writers they create documentation. It can be API documentation. It can be engineering documentation. So I was asking if there are people on this call who are developers, but somehow, even if you're not a developer, you must have heard of something called React and all of those framework and all of that. All of those things, they have the documentation that if you want to learn React today, you go to React doc site and you learn. Those things are created by technical writers. Those are called engineering documentation. Tech writers write those things. They might give them different titles. Like I mentioned before that for some companies, they like to call them technical writers. For some, they call them doc engineers, API doc engineers, and all of that. But what they primarily do is try to make this piece of software make sense to potential users. So you create documentation. After creating, you make it you want to keep documentation accurate. So if there are new updates to your documentation, you want to edit and reverse it and add the new update. So that's the next point you're seeing, edit and reverse. Okay, I can see some other message on the chat. Damilola said they write in a clear and concise document on the product. Oluwatumisi said technical writers simplify complex concepts into understandable information. Okay. Ade said they review, research, and document. That's good. It makes sense. Yes. And then technical writers also, they manage content. They manage content. They manage content. They manage content. So this and many more are what technical writers do. On a day-to-day. So I'm trying not to go too deep because myself, I'm a technical writer. So initially, I wanted to use I want to talk about my day-to-day life as a technical writer, but I don't want to go into all of those. But just know that technical writers, they like all of you mentioned in the chat, that makes sense, and those things I said to make sense. But beyond writing concise and all of that, you're creating documentation. You must be ready and available to always go back to your work to look at the current product your people have and look at what you had before. If there's any gaps, you want to fill up that gap. So you want to edit and revise. And then you're basically managing the document. That's technical writer. That's what they do.